Welcome to the Alcohol Free Revolution podcast. My name is James Lloyd.
And I'm Steve Smith. We are both former professional drinkers turned qualified alcohol-free coaches.
And we're here to inspire you to explore your best life alcohol-free. Whether you're sober curious, considering taking a break, or already loving life alcohol-free, this podcast is for you. Each week, we'll share ideas, tools, and conversations with the leading voices from within the alcohol-free space.
And our goal is simple: to give you the confidence to try it for yourself with stories and strategies that show just how powerful pressing pause on the booze can be.
I coach high achievers, leaders and entrepreneurs who want to reset and regain control of their relationship with alcohol. I focus on breaking down the neuroscience of drinking, because once you understand what's happening in your brain, everything changes. You can find out more about me at my website, alcoholfreecoach.com. Plus, we've recorded a special bonus episode where Steve interviews me about my journey and my work. Just search the Alcohol Free Revolution, episode 9.
And I work with high-performing dads, helping them show up more consistently at home and at work, and also in their training, by building resilience and unlocking their true potential through an alcohol-free life. I'm also a qualified USGA ultramarathon coach. You can hear about my story in a bonus episode and connect with me on Instagram at sober.illiant or at soberilliant.com.
Before we dive in, a quick favour. Please hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss another episode.
And if you enjoy it, give us a 5-star review. It really helps others who are sober curious find the show, and together we can grow the alcohol-free revolution.
Thanks for listening. On with today's show.
Yeah. I can hear your chair. Welcome back to the Alcohol Free Revolution podcast. I think this is episode 13. Steve, I didn't think we'd even get this far, mate. How are you?
I hate to tell you, it's more than that, mate. I think
Is it?
we're on 15 now. I think we are on. So yes, absolutely. And and thank you for pointing out that I have a squeaky chair today. So I'm going to do my very best to
You're going to cut that bit though, right?
Still as I am. No, I'm not. I'm going to sit here for as still as I can for the next however long. So yes, and maybe we'll just talk a little bit louder to take that away from this week.
Yeah.
How are you doing this week, James?
Yeah, I'm doing really good actually. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm right in the middle of a wedding season. My two best friends, who are both one's 48, the other one's 50, and I've known them well over 35 years. They're my two best friends. Neither have been married, and both the selfish bastards decided to get married within a fortnight of each other. Which is absolutely outrageous. So I've just had, one friend, Renee, got married last weekend, which was really lovely. I've now got a stag do coming up where I'm the best man for my friend Andy. And we're going to Oktoberfest in Munich. And I've mentioned this a few times on the pod, and I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous about this. Being alcohol free, obviously. Not that there would be any kind of concern about drinking or anything. That ship's long sailed, but it's a long weekend in Munich where everyone's drinking litres and this, that, the other. So I don't really know quite I'm going to approach this. By the time this pod goes out, by the way, this is going to go out on Monday, I will be back. But that's what's on my mind today. We're recording on the 1st of October. And yeah, so I'm off to Oktoberfest. I'd ask people to give me some tips and some advice, but I'll be back by the time that you hear this. So yeah.
Have you ever been to Oktoberfest?
No, I've never been to. I've only been to Germany, like passing through. I've stopped at Frankfurt a couple of times, but so I'm excited to go to Munich. But someone sent me a photograph today of Oktoberfest, and honestly, it blew my mind how many people there were. I mean, it was like it's like when they have like the president's inaugurations. When there's just literally just hundreds of thousands of people like packing the streets. I mean, in my mind, it was like National Lampoon's European Vacation. When you've got Chevy Chase and his lederhosen and a couple of men Morris dancing. That's what I was expecting. It's not that at all. You've been right.
I am. Probably why we have a podcast nowadays, actually, because I'm a bit of a veteran of the Oktoberfest. I haven't been for a number of years, but I've had friends that grew up in Munich. And so I've been to Munich countless times. I used to spend summers out there, and so I've been to the Oktoberfest probably double-digit amount of times I've been. And yes, you are going to see some incredible sights. Let's put it like that, because you're going to be seeing them. You're going to be seeing them through clarity, and you're going to be seeing things that you never thought were ever possible. But it's amazing. You know, I'm sure you would have an amazing time. It wouldn't put me off going back sober. It wouldn't at all. I would happily go back but it's not something I've ever really been attracted back to. But Munich is an amazing city as well. It's such a cool city. It's going to be busy. Prepared to be queuing a lot, and be prepared to be waiting a long time for a drink. But the lovely thing is, being alcohol free, you're not going to be just crying out for waiting for that first drink or that next drink to come. Which is great. And it's brilliant fun. The music, the camaraderie, I hate to say it, debauchery, but it's going to be great fun. You'll have a great time.
Well, we were at the Austrian Grand Prix a few months ago, and they had like the Umpa bands there, and that looked so much fun. Honestly, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. You know, the Germans really do know how to have a good time. So yeah, no, I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be brilliant. So good. Yeah, so that's that. What about yourself? What have you been doing?
Well, not a huge amount. I'm just focusing on my coaching and focusing on growing my coaching business. So it's been really exciting times. Awesome. and working through that and building that going forward. So nothing super exciting in that regard. I'm taking the kids to the New Forest on Friday. It's meant to rain, unfortunately, but we're just going to get away for a little bit and trying to plan what the next few months will look like, which is exciting, going into Christmas and into the new year and what the future might hold. So yeah, watch this space. Good
stuff.
Yeah, no huge big road trips or anything at this stage. Just
to say you're all road tripped out, I imagine.
I am just living the relaxed life at the moment. But it's just us this week, as you probably worked out. Yeah.
So we've decided we're going to do at least one solo episode a month where it's just you and me, because I had some really good feedback on kind of when it's just you and me on the show. But I've also wanted to take a moment just to recognise we've had 4 weeks of straight guests, and they've been absolutely brilliant. We had Helen on first, and she just told such a great story of her journey with alcohol and and how much better life is without it. And she's a middle-aged drinker like you and I were, and I just thought that was such a fantastic story. And then we had Andy on, who of course is our coach and mentor, and he's just a trailblazer in the alcohol-free space. And then Harrison came on, and his story is just one of absolute triumph over adversity, and a real transformation with alcohol. And then last week we had Denise, and Denise was just absolutely awesome. I mean, we talked all about alcohol-free alternatives, which is such a popular subject when you're taking a break from the booze. And I'd urge anybody to go back if they're new to the show, if this is their first one. Thank you so much for joining us. But these previous 4 episodes are a real essential back catalogue. You've really got to go and listen to them. They were so much fun to record and really insightful. Is there anything from that last 4 episodes that really stands out for you, Steve?
Yeah, I think it was amazing to chat with Andy and to put Andy on the other side of the microphone for a change, which I loved. And also looking at what he has coming up in the coming months. But again, they were all great. I think last week, maybe because it's still fresh in my mind, last week I thought was such an insightful look into alcohol-free alternatives and just the range and how much it's grown and the knowledge behind that, and even the ability to now be pairing food with drinks and why the wine market is where it is and what the future holds for that. So yeah, I thought that was really insightful and really interesting chat.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think the great news as well is we've got more guests coming up. So we're going to try and do, like I say, at least one a month of you and I, but we've got people already lined up for next week and the week after and the week after that. Some really great guests who we think are going to, audience in mind. So it's not just our buddies, it's people that we think will come on and add something that people are going to enjoy listening to. So yeah, if there's anything, any feedback that people have on on the guests or on subjects or particular topics that you want us to cover, then do engage with us. You can either leave us a comment or that brings me on to my next point, Steve. We need to ask some favors from people in that we need some 5-star reviews, or we need you to like the show, all that kind of stuff, because it really helps get it out there to more people. I've had quite a few of my friends actually who I know listen to the show, who have been saying, "Oh, I really like the show," and I've given it to everybody to listen to. You haven't given us any reviews, mate. So listen, you guys know who I'm talking about. You know who you are, who's been listening to all the episodes, because several people have told me this. I'm not seeing any 5-star reviews or nice comments. So if you're my friend and you want to help us, just go and do that simple thing. It takes 10 seconds and it helps other people find the Alcohol Free Revolution podcast. So please, I'm begging you, do that for us.
Are any of them going to Munich?
One is, yes.
Or you can just thrust your phone across there.
Do you know what? If anyone comes up to me in the future and says, "Oh, I really like your podcast," and there in person, I'm literally going to grab their phone and go, "Right, we're doing it right now." You know, you've got me and Steve coming in your ears every Monday morning with quality content, and it's for free. You're getting this for nothing. So all you got to do, 10 seconds, give us a
Surely FM.
review. Surely FM, yeah,
Surely
coming in your
FM
ears.
coming in
Started
your
again.
ears. Awesome. Anyway, what do you want to
Oh,
talk about this week anyway, James? Because we've got nobody to talk to apart from our boring faces.
well, today, Stephen, my friend, is the 1st of October. So it would be very amiss of us not to talk about Sober October, considering this is the alcohol-free revolution. So I definitely want to get into that with you.
Mm.
I know I've given my opinion in the past. I gave it last week on Dry January and Sober October. Why don't you tell me your view? What tips have you got for people taking a break this month?
I think, you know what? We have given our opinions on this, but I'm going to start on an absolute positive. I think the movements of Dry January and Sober October over the last few years, probably the last decade or so, have massively driven awareness around the health benefits of taking a break from alcohol. And I think that's kind of when that started, it was very much in the infancy of people addressing their relationships with alcohol, or certainly openly addressing their relationships with alcohol. So I think that's been an absolutely positive thing, and I think it's absolutely great, and it raises that awareness. It encourages people. It gives them permission to take a break. It creates a bit of a cultural movement. It might spark curiosity in people to take it beyond 30 days. That's the hope. And it can potentially be a domino for a longer journey. That's kind of my view on the positive sides of both of those.
Mm.
I think the negative sides maybe need to come from how we approach it and what we see it for, because I think I had failed attempts with Dry January. I think I only ever managed it once, because I was always focusing on what I was losing. And in January, I know we're talking about Sober October, but equally, October's a pretty gloomy month as well, right? The weather's not great. The clocks go back. It's not a brilliant month. You're starting to think about how much money you need to save up for Christmas. You've kind of got all those things coming around the corner. It's dark in the evenings. It's normally drizzly. It's normally miserable. It's not the best month really to start thinking about that, removing something like that from your life if you're approaching it with a what I'm going to lose mentality. The same as January, you're just paying off your credit card bills, you've come out the other side, so it's normally freezing cold, it's miserable, and it's dark. So I think when you're approaching it from that angle, you're almost putting yourself on the back foot from the beginning.
Yeah.
Where it really starts to, where it really starts to work is when you start to focus on what you're gaining. So I think if you approach Sober October and really look at what you're gaining through that time, and whether, even if it's doing something as simple as taking a selfie every day for the whole month and looking at what change there is and looking at what you're gaining, and maybe journaling your mood in the morning and looking at how you feel each day and how that changes, and not focusing on that party that you were invited to and why you decided not to go, or whatever it happens to be. For me, that's where you're going to start to see the benefit, and that's where you're potentially going to start to see the benefit going forward, and maybe sparking a bit of curiosity as to what November, and dare I even say it, December might look like.
Yeah, I think you're dead right. That's great advice. It really is all about the focus, I think, in terms of where you put your focus. I was writing an email today to my subscribers, and I came up with quite a good analogy actually around why my mindset is so important in taking a break. And have you ever come across, there's a video that's used quite a lot in sort of training at work and stuff like that, and it's called the selective attention test. And basically what it is, it's a video whereby they ask you to watch a short video for about 1 minute and count how many times the basketball is passed. And there's like kind of 5 players in a room, and they're just throwing a basketball back and forth, and you're counting how many passes there are. And in the middle of the video, about 1 minute, a man in a gorilla suit walks across, waves at the camera, and walks off shot again. And unless you've seen it before, the vast majority of people completely miss the gorilla. They don't even see it. And at the end of the video, they say, "Oh, how many basketballs were passed?" And then people go, "Oh, 10, 11, 12." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, right, okay, great." And they say, "Does anyone see the gorilla?" And people are like, what gorilla? There's no gorilla. And when they play the video back, it blows your mind that
Yeah,
literally
it's
this
amazing, isn't
bloke
it?
in a gorilla suit has walked past, and your brain has not even seen it because you are purely focused on the number of passes, and it's all about highlighting how selective attention can blind us to other things. And it's such, and I just think this is so true with Sober October and Dry January. If you are only focusing on what you're losing and what you can't have, you completely miss all of the benefits of how incredible the transformation is within your body. You know, all of those benefits like sleep and energy and productivity, anxiety drops off, all these things. You know, we've spoken about it 1,000 times, and you sort of think, well, those benefits can't be so great if I don't notice them. If you don't focus on them, you won't notice them. You'll just be you just won't see the gorilla.
Hmm.
And I think, you know, going into it with that sense of curiosity, I mean, it's 50% of the job. It's more than that. It's just so important. If you go in with just without that focus on the benefits, you really might as well not bother. And I
Yeah.
mean that. So I'm exaggerating when I say that. You really might as well not bother, because all you are doing is compounding your existing belief that this is going to be shit and I'm not going to like it and I'm not going to be able to have a drink. And it's just a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time and it's counterproductive.
No,
But if you
you're
do
right. And
things, go on.
no, carry on.
I was going to say, if you do, I think you touched upon it there as well. If you do things like journaling, you know, that reinforce what you're noticing, just take 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up and think, okay, how am I feeling? You know, how's my head? You know, how's my tummy? How well did I sleep last night? How much energy have I got? How did I get on at work yesterday? All those sort of things, and taking time to go through a mental checklist of how you're feeling and then write it down. Literally 5 minutes, just back of a fag packet, throw it away afterwards. It doesn't matter, but just note it down so that it reinforces that, you know, what you're seeing in your own mind. Because, you know, we live so mindlessly in that we don't notice things. We're always thinking about what's coming up or what's already gone, and focusing on how you're feeling right now is the really, really important bit. And this all sounds a bit, I suppose, a bit woo woo, but it really works. I mean, it really, really works. So that's those, you know, that's be some of the advice I'd give people on Sober October, is just focus on all of the gains and forget about what you think you haven't got or what you think you're losing.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw in a disclaimer there. Don't write it on the back of a fag packet, because whilst this is the alcohol-free revolution, we also don't condone smoking either. So, you know, find a nice piece of A4 and write, or your journal. But yeah, you know, you're right, and something, you know, it's like, it's those conscious decisions, isn't it? So our brain makes around 35,000 different decisions a day for the average human, and that kind of highlights just how much those thoughts can be hidden. Because if we consciously made those decisions, if we were absolutely conscious of every single decision we made, we would never get out of bed in the morning. So a number of those decisions that are made around, you're going to make those automatic decisions that it's going to be a shit month, that it's going to not, you know, you're going to have a lot of negative connotations of it. You're going to you're going to say that to other people. You're going to, I'm doing Dry January, I'm doing Sober October, you know. And it's also not necessarily encouraged massively either, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but with Sober October, and I don't think it's massively said, you have the option to buy a 1-day pass. Now, I know it's also a charity. It's a charity and it raises a massive amount of money for charity, and I think that's great. And I believe you have to buy that pass, which is obviously going to raise more money. But surely the whole idea behind doing Sober October is the fact that it's a positive thing, right? And you shouldn't be able to go halfway through, you know what, I'm going to spend a tenner or whatever it happens to be so that I can buy a 1-day pass to go for a drink.
Yeah, mindset's wrong again, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's putting alcohol on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem with having the focus on what you've not got, because you're putting alcohol on a pedestal. And it's, I think, yeah, I mean, some of the things we've talked about there definitely can make it, you know, a more rewarding journey. But I think there's other things as well. And, you know, you kind of mentioned it there about being able to buy a pass. I think there's another way of looking at that. When I'm working with people, I always tell them that, you know, if you're taking 30 days off alcohol and you have a day where it's a slip, a genuine slip, it's an accident, something happened, something got in the way, you got caught off guard, you know, you're out, someone offered you a beer and you were like, yeah, go on then, another pint of Stella. And you just, sometimes that happens, right? Focusing on okay, I've drank for one day, so it's ruined. All bets are off. I might as well just go back to drinking. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. And
Mm,
perfection is the enemy of progress. So, if you take 30 days off and you happen to have one day where you slip, okay, well, you've been alcohol free for 98% of the time. That's amazing. That's a great, fantastic result. So the important thing is always to get back on the horse if you do have a slip. Planning it in the way that you've described, where you can buy a pass, that's not the same thing at all. But
no.
if things happen, don't beat yourself up. It's a journey. It's about learning. It's about education. It's about learning about yourself. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It's about
Mm,
about progress.
mm.
So I think that's quite an important thing to add on as well.
I think yeah, I think you're right, and I think as I say, we've discussed it a few times. For me, it's a positive, and I'm going to come from that angle. I do think it's a positive. It causes a shift. It causes a movement, and anything that does that has got to be positive. I think so. In summary, to people, it's if you're doing it, absolute kudos to you, absolute hats off to you, full strength to you, absolutely go for it. Just take on board what we're saying and just look at how you're approaching that month. So for me, I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
I'm going to give it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it by any stretch of the imagination. I think if you do it right, then yeah, it's amazing. It's fantastic. But it can. It's such a fine line between getting it right and wrong, and it is that mindset bit. But I think there's a couple of other things I just want to throw in as well in terms of tips for people who are doing it. I think planning your time is really important. Having a strategy. When you just rip something out of your life that you've spent a lot of time doing, sitting there with this big hole with nothing to fill it, it's gonna it's doomed to failure. Boredom for a lot of people, certainly did for me, leads to drinking. If you're bored, you're going to find it much more difficult. So plan out how you're going to spend your weekends, what you're going to do. Get outside, try and get some movement. There's have an idea of what you're going to do to replace what you would have been doing when you were drinking. Don't just sit there thinking, well, this is shit. What am I going to do? Have a plan. Alcohol-free alternatives, as we spoke about last week with Denise, I think are a huge asset. I know for a lot of well, not for a lot of people, but for one or two people, there's a concern that they're triggering. I personally have never really come across that because that there isn't alcohol in them for one thing. So there isn't that sort of sense that all of a sudden you're going to go back to drinking full strength alcohol. I can understand how some people can kind of see them as well, it tastes the same, and I don't know. I it's difficult. Have you had an experience with that where people have
I,
had to find it triggering? I personally
I
haven't.
I have, but very rarely. And I think the biggest message that needs to come from this is you do you. If it works, absolutely fill your boots. I know for me, and yeah, when I first started, alcohol-free alternatives were an absolute crutch for me. I couldn't have, I still drink them, and I've always got alcohol-free beers in my fridge, and they still form part of that ritual. Mostly now it's just sort of weekend onwards, but equally I would have found it a lot harder without them. But at the same time, they could, if you believe they could be triggering to you, or if they've been triggering to you in the past, then absolutely I would suggest treading with caution. But I haven't had much experience of that at all, to be honest.
I'll tell you what, one thing actually that works within that area is I'm coaching a chap at the moment, a really lovely guy, and he was a big red wine drinker. And since going alcohol free, he switched on to Guinness Zero, and he'd never drunk Guinness before. He wasn't a beer drinker, but now he absolutely loves Guinness Zero. But there's no trigger there because he never drank it in the first place. He always drank red wine, and obviously Guinness and red wine are two entirely different drinks. So one thing you can do, if you're a beer drinker, maybe try some of the wines. And Denise gave some great recommendations on wines or kombuchas. It's not just about beer and wine. There's tons of alcohol-free alternatives. But I think what's important is to have an adult drink, so you feel part of the group. You feel like standing there with just mineral water and lime, and okay, it's fine if that works for you, but for a lot of people it doesn't. And I think having drink in a nice glass that's well presented, or or a pint, Guinness Zero is fantastic, and there's so many good alcohol-free beers as well, and yada yada yada. But the long and short of it is you can switch to something else, try something different. You don't have to go back to drinking what you drank before. But yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
I think that they form such a brilliant crutch in that way. And I'm the same as you. My fridge is always full of NA beers, and I have them every single night. I absolutely love them.
Cool.
And I guess the last thing, just to kind of finish on, I suppose, around Sober October, is community. Um, I think one of the things that I think is quite difficult when you're taking a break, probably outside of the seasonal events like October and Dry January, but even then, it can feel quite isolating because most people drink, they don't ever address their drinking, and they just carry on doing what they're doing. So sometimes you can feel a little bit on your own when you're not drinking. And community, being around other people, is really powerful, but it doesn't have to be necessarily other people. It could be books or podcasts, or Facebook groups, any kind of events where other people aren't drinking. Because one thing that we found, obviously, since we met, over a year and a half ago, is being around other people who are going through the same thing. I don't say going through, but who have the same life experience is amazing. You're just riffing off each other and shared experience, and it's really, really empowering, and it's such a nice feeling that, oh yeah, great, yeah, you're alcohol free too. That's fantastic, isn't it? Brilliant. It's so great. And so finding community around other people and connecting with other people, or hearing other people's stories. That's partly why we've obviously started this podcast, is so we can share our own stories and other people's, so people don't feel like they're on their own, is really, really important. What do you think about that?
No, I totally agree. And the community, I've often heard many, many, many times the expression that the opposite of addiction is connection, and it's so true. And I think we have to really look at what community and connection means. That doesn't necessarily have to mean sitting in a room of people and sharing your stories, and we'll come to that, but it not necessarily, but it can massively help. Online Zoom groups are hugely helpful. I've been involved in a lot of those in the past. But also, you could define community really as in immersing yourself in podcasts, and that's not necessarily a plug for ours. We'd obviously appreciate it if it was our podcast, but you know what? Spoiler, there are hundreds of podcasts out there, and I think that it's important to get differing views and differing approaches, and there's some absolutely incredible podcasts out there, but also Quitlet in great, immersing yourselves in Quitlet. And if you haven't heard that expression before, that's quitting literature. So it's books around alcohol, books around taking a break from alcohol. I've been quite vocal about my first book I ever read shifted my mindset around alcohol entirely, and that was Alcohol Lied to Me by Craig Beck. We can talk about other books. There's hundreds of them out there. Some huge ones that are kind of at the forefront, whether it's Alcohol Explained or the Unexpected Joy of Being Sober by Catherine Gray. There's some absolutely fantastic books out there. So all of that gives you connection as well, because you can. For me, it was picking up that book and reading it and going, you know what? Actually, God, it wasn't just me after all. And that's such a switch, right?
I'm gonna plug in a few. You've named 3 outstanding books there, all of 3 of which I've read. Loved all of them. I'm just gonna drop a few others just so if people are looking for some ideas. The big one's obviously This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, which literally it would be a number 1 or a number 2. Catherine Gray you mentioned, she's just absolutely awesome. Another one that I read that I probably wasn't the intended audience for is Quit Like a Woman by I can't remember who the author is, but it is incredible. It's an incredible book. Obviously, I'm
going to look while you're going through it.
I can't remember, but it's a fantastic. It's kind of quite like Catherine Gray. That's a fantastic book. The Sober Diaries is another one by Claire Pooley that's very well thought of. James Swanwick, who's a bit of an Australian Andy Ramage, if anyone's seen him. He's got a book out called Clear, which is all about neuroscience of alcohol, which is very interesting. Any big ones I've missed?
I'm getting one up for you right now, but the author you were looking for was Holly Whitaker.
Holly Whitaker, yeah.
And there is a great book by Bryony Gordon as well, which I'm searching for you right now. Glorious Rock Bottom.
Oh, don't know that one.
That's a great one as well. So there you go.
If you're under 30 as well, another good one, which I probably shouldn't have read, but I did, was oh God, I've forgotten. Where is it? The Sober Girl Society Handbook.
Yeah. I'm seeing a theme here, James.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a bit of a voyeur reading these, but I'm doing it purely in the interests of coaching, of trying to get a perspective from the fairer sex. So yeah, that's a good one too. So plenty to have a look at there.
Awesome.
So we touched upon a second ago there about community. What's we've not spoken about it in the past on the pod, but what's your views on AA?
So I never attended AA personally. That was not something, I never, my reasons for stopping were, I didn't particularly feel like I necessarily had a rock bottom. But at the same time, it's an incredible organization. I think it's really important to say that. I think there's absolutely no doubt at all. And obviously, when I come across people in my coaching that have used AA, and I get amazingly positive things said about it. The biggest thing that comes through normally is that sense of community that we're just talking about now, and being able to share stories and be part of that community and having that support. And that's so important. And I think that's absolute kudos to it, because they've led the way in that over the years. So I think it's amazing. Whether it's maybe viewed as the only approach sometimes, and I think that's important to say that it's not necessarily. I think I often hear that, not always, because I guess every center would be different, but it comes often from a religious background. So if religion's not your thing, then sometimes that may form a boundary, or a hurdle to anybody going to it. And equally, I think with AA, it maybe focuses on you as a person and you being broken. Whereas in coaching, we focus on what's in your glass and the reason behind that. But I think I absolutely don't want to take away from it, because I think it's an incredible organization, and I think there's no doubt it's saved millions of people across the world over the years.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page, I think, with you there. It's been going for, I think, 90 odd years now. Yeah, and you're right, clearly they've helped hundreds of thousands of people. But I think my concern, with AA is that you're right. I think for a lot of people, they think that is the only option if they want to change their relationship with alcohol, and it's such a, it's a bit like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, isn't it? It's an extreme. Particularly for us as British people, I think the idea of sitting in a room with people you don't know and kind of bearing your soul, particularly if you're coming from the point of view of, you're a high achiever, in business or, in other areas of your life, but alcohol is the missing piece, then going and sitting in a room sitting next to someone, who's homeless or just held up a gas station or something. I'm not saying those people don't need help. Of course they do. But if it's putting everybody together in the same place, and for a lot of people, they can't really relate to that. So I think that's problematic. And you also mentioned there about labeling people as being, well, it's a character defect, or it's a personal flaw, and this idea that it's finite as well, in terms of you will always have a problem with alcohol and you just have to resist alcohol. It's all about taking it day by day. And I'm like, that's just not true. It's not, this idea that alcohol's a disease and things. Again, people might call me out on that, but I don't believe that that's true. Alcohol only stays in our system for 7 days for most people, slightly a bit longer if you're a very, very heavy drinker. But kind of getting a bit bogged down in the weeds here. But I think the community aspect is what really, really counts, and that's where the real the wins are. And I think being around other people who are going through a similar experience is it's really powerful.
Have you been in terms of communities? Have you been involved in any communities in the past?
Not when I first went alcohol free, and that for me was an enormous miss. I did do it very much on my own. I met somebody literally once who I'd known previously who was alcohol free, and literally I was just couldn't stop talking to her, because I was just like, oh my God, it's amazing, you're alcohol free. Oh, this is so brilliant. I was just riffing off her. But then the time that really stuck out to me more than anything is when we met, when we first did the course. When I did the very first call with Andy and the cohort that we were on, where there was, I don't know, 40 or 50 people, and at least 30 of them were alcohol free. And I just came off the call and everyone was just sharing their stories, and I was just like, oh my God, I couldn't. And it was just an absolute revelation to me that there was so many other people who had the same life experience, almost to the T. Everyone was telling the same stories. They'd all arrived at that alcohol-free coaching because they'd had the same experience that I'd had, and that was just incredible. So
Mm.
I felt like I missed out on the community bit when I was initially finding my feet alcohol-free. But I think I was 3 years in actually when we started coaching, and that was and we still have that cohort. We still speak. We still have a WhatsApp group, and obviously we met via that. So that's all about community.
Mm.
100%. But going it alone, even if you don't want to go out to, sober dating or anything like that. I've got a coaching client at the moment who's doing some sober dating and he's loving it. But even if it's just listening to podcasts or reading audiobooks, but hearing about other people's stories that you can resonate with really do give that positive reinforcement. And that's that. If you can find people to talk to about it, even better. But if you can't, just listen to other people's stories.
Yeah, it's a case of you don't necessarily have to go in there and share everything. It's just just that feeling that you're not hiding from it is really important.
I think the other thing that's really crucial with it as well is that we are pack animals. We are tribal creatures, and when you're going alcohol free on your own, you've always got that sense that it's just me and everybody else is doing something different, and I'm left out, and I'm not part of the group. I'm not part of the tribe. So you have to go out and find a new tribe. Obviously in the world we live in now, you can do that quite easily on social media. You can join a Facebook group or whatever. But if you're isolated, then that makes us feel uncomfortable because that's not within. We've not evolved that way. Being on your own, being outside of the group, is something that our brains deviate us away from. They push us back within the group because that equals safety. So in a way, you're making it harder for yourself by doing it on your own because your brain's going to push you towards go back to what go back to drinking because that's where we know the safety is, because obviously your brain doesn't look at it in terms of the long term. It just so your subconscious looks at it in the now, keeping you safe now. And yeah, I can't stress enough the importance of community,
which is a brilliant segue into a thought that's popped into our heads, right?
Yeah, I guess we've been beating around the bush a little bit here, but part of the reason why we wanted to kind of bring community into the debate is we're going to start one, right, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. How are we going to do that, James?
Well, we're going to. You're probably already getting the sense that we've not fully fleshed this out, but we're going to gauge a bit of an interest, and we'd like to get some people together, in a community, in a group. And just to be entirely clear, this is not an AA group. We're not going to ask people to come and sit down and tell their stories. We're going to get some people together who are like-minded, who are going on an alcohol-free journey, whether or not you've been alcohol for 10 years, 10 minutes, or you're sober curious. If you're listening to this show, then you are welcome to join us. And we're going to put this in place, I think, probably from next month. We're going to gauge what the interest is like. And then we're going to do a Zoom call, one evening, and get some people on the calls. You can come and sit and listen. You don't have to participate if you don't want.
You don't have to turn your camera on. You can just be complete. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can on or off. It's great if you can, but you don't have to. We'll do all the talking if you want. But as coaches, it's not our job to do the talking. It's down to the other people to talk. But we just want to create a space where it's an extension of what we're talking about here, of what we're doing, where we can interact with some of the listeners and and create that community, because we feel like there's an opportunity there, and other people have mentioned it to us. So what we're going to do in terms of moving this forward, we'll have an email address in the show notes if you're interested in joining the alcohol-free community. Certainly for the initial period, it's not going to cost anything. We might after a little while put a modest subscription price on it, but certainly for the first sort of few months, it's going to be completely free. Come and chat to us, and it'll be for an hour or so a week. But like I say, what we'll do, we'll put a link in the show notes. If you want to express interest, if you'd like to join the community, just drop us a note, and if we get enough interest, we'll do it.
I am super excited about this. I think it's going to be great. And I having seen the benefits of being in a community before, and we're just, what, if it's nothing more than a handful of us sitting down once a week, having a cup of tea and talking about our week, then that's all it needs to be. That's
Yeah.
all it needs to be.
Yeah.
So watch this space. We will be coming with a date very, very soon. But as of our launch, we will have. We want to hear. We want to hear from you. If this is something you'd like to get going, we will absolutely do it, and we'll watch it grow over the coming weeks, months, and years.
Awesome.
Amazing. Amazing.
You do realize in the first call it's probably going to be you and me. And we'll
that's all
probably
right.
just end up recording a podcast.
Well, that's all right. I can never drink enough tea these days, to be fair. So that's absolutely fine. I might just have to turn your camera off. Anyway, so awesome. So we've got some more guests coming up over the coming weeks, correct? We're not going to open the can on that, but or are you?
I'm not going to open the can on it yet, purely because I'm always a bit concerned that if one cancels, and we've kind of committed to it on a previous podcast, we're going to look like chumps. But also maybe we might put the episodes out in a different order is the other thing. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've got some really, really good ones, and I've put the feelers out to a few other people as well. And I just think the first four we've had just been so good. They've been brilliant. I just absolutely love speaking to them. So, and the new ones coming up, not new ones, that sounds a bit weird, but all people that we've carefully selected who we know have got really great stories and to the audience, that because obviously we want to retain listeners, we want to grow our listenership. So if you do like what we're doing, then please do share it in whatever capacity you can, whether or not that's with people that you know or on your socials, because we just want to try and reach as many people as we can.
Yeah, and in terms of the community page, by all means, if there's subjects you want us to address, if there's subjects you want us to cover, please comment in there as well. Just let us know. We're happy to do that, and we'll raise that as a point of discussion, certainly when we have our monthly kind of one-to-one sessions, just myself and James. But ultimately, that's how we plan to go forward. We want to hear from you. We want as much engagement as possible. That'd be amazing.
Good stuff.
Amazing. So on to the next episode next week. So it's been great to catch up, and thank you very much to everyone for joining.
Yeah, great stuff. I'll see you next week.
See you then. Thanks very
Bye-bye.
much indeed. Bye-bye.